The resurgence in South African rallying continued recently with the Stannic Asset Finance Rally in the Western Cape. Marvellous autumn weather greeted South Africa's top rally crews for round 2 of the Stannic National Rally Championship, with rally headquarters at the Cape Rendezvous Hotel between Cape Town and Paarl. An interested visitor to the pre-event holding area was Daewoo Motorsport co-driver Guy Hodgson. With Daewoo sitting this one out, Hodgson chatted to reigning South African champion Jannie Hubig, who was out for the first time in the new factory VW Golf kit car.
I did the Safari Rally 4 or 5 weeks ago. It did finish 8th overall. It was obviously built for the Safari spec, so we had to spend a bit of time in changing the suspension setups, and it's obviously very, very strong. Slightly overweight at this stage. So I think, you know, once it gets back to the factory at Volkswagen, they need to spend a bit of time and put it on a bit of a diet.
On the comeback trail were former South African champion Hannes Grobler and co-driver Dave McGregor.
We hope we're going to do well, but we'll take it slow because the front-wheel drive is totally new for me, and I've been in a rally car last 2 years ago, and Dave has been in a rally car 4 years ago, so I'm looking forward to it.
Leading the championship after the opening round were 6 times champions Serge Damso and Vita Bonafide, with just 7 points separating the next 6 crews. Local youngsters Richard Bem and Jonathan Bright were the only Group N pair in the top 10 in 8th spot. Formerly known as the Autumn Trial, the Stannic Asset Finance Rally broke from tradition with a start in Stellenbosch. First car away in the famous university town was the Castrol Toyota Conquest pair of Serge Damso and Vita Bonafide. Following the former champions off the start ramp were Jannie Hubig and Douglas Judd in the new Volkswagen Challenger. Next up were the Sasol Ford Escort pair of Paolo Piazzamosso and Cape co-driver Nick Haddon. There were also top 10 start positions for Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding, leading Class A7 in a VW Golf, and Class A6 leaders Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz with the Pretoria crew out in the Danier Toyota Conquest. The route will take crews into the Wellington, Wolseley, Tulbagh and Gouda areas before returning to Paarl for the final special stage. Crews would pass through some marvellous scenery over the next 2 days, but it was soon down to work with the opening special stage just outside Stellenbosch. This combined dirt with tar sections, and for National Championship regulars, the stage is a familiar opening to many Cape rallies. Damso and Bonafide in the Castrol Toyota Conquest set the early pace and were just 2 seconds quicker through the stage than Hubig and Judd, who were having to adjust to unfamiliar surroundings in the Works VW Golf. Piazzamosso and Haddon posted a time 5 seconds slower than Damso and Bonafide and were followed into the stage by Class A8 newcomers Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the Team Total Toyota Conquest. Class A8 is the premier Group A category in South African rallying, with the so-called kit cars conforming to international specifications. Lawrence and Paisley were just 3 seconds behind Damso and Bonafide and 1 second slower than Hubig and Judd. Lawrence and Paisley on the road with a Fecken-Lukowitz combination in Class A6 in the Danier Toyota Conquest. Fecken and Lukowitz won the class on the opening event of the year and were expecting some tough opposition from local pair Jean-Pierre Damso, the son of famous dad Serge, and Pierre Aris in the Team Total Toyota Conquest. Close competition was also expected in the Group N category for standard cars, with the Grobler-McGregor Nissan Sentra stacked up against the likes of local crew Diffie Murray and Donnie Duval in the Goodwood electrical Toyota Corolla, which was running ahead of the Class A7 Golf of Berto Mostert and Andre Vermeulen. Special Stage 2 moved into the Franschhoek area with more beautiful scenery which crews did not have time to appreciate. Vantage points drew large bands of rally enthusiasts, with most of them there to watch local hero Damso at work in the Castrol Toyota Conquest. The Toyota pair are perennial favourites for the Western Cape rallies, but with new special stages being utilised this time around, the playing fields were level. Reigning champions Hubig and Judd were still trying to get the feel of the new VW Golf, but were as spectacular as ever. Lawrence and Paisley were going along steadily, as were Class A7 frontrunners Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding. The Fecken-Lukowitz battle in Class A6 with the youngster Damso and Aris was getting into gear, with the Danier Toyota crew holding a slight early advantage over the Team Total pairing, who looked to be feeling their way a little in the opening stages. Further back, Class A7 challengers Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows were revelling in 16-valve power in the ex-Terry Brand Marty Olivier VW Golf. The pair used an 8-valve VW Golf on the opening event of the season, and at the service area at the end of Special Stage 2, Krobler was enthusiastic over the early performance of the team total entry.
Car's very nice, handling very well. So far no problems. Car's running relatively cool, which is one of the problems we thought we may have. But it's unbelievable. The power is just doesn't end.
Special Stage 2 was not a happy affair for Paolo Piazzamusso and Nick Hatton in the Sassel Ford Escort. They dropped around 20 seconds on the other Class A8 cars, with service crew hard at work before Special Stage 3 with some quick changes to the car.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good stage for us. We tested a new anti-roll bar, which didn't work, and on top of it, we chose the wrong compound tyre. It was a bit too hard for the stage, so between the two we lost a bit of time, but we're going back to the old setup, and hopefully we'll claw our way back again.
Going into Special Stage 3, Damso and Bonafide had opened up an early 6-second gap over Yanni Hubig and Douglas Judd. After nearly a decade of rallying together, Damso and Bonafide have built up a perfect understanding. Teamwork between driver and co-driver is an absolute requisite for success in rallying, and 6 national titles suggest that Damso and Bonafide have perfected the art. Paolo Piazzamusso and Nick Hatton looked a little happier with the Sassel Ford Escort, now restored to original specifications, and were back on the pace of the other Class A8 cars. Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were starting to speed up in the Team Total Toyota Conquest, and with Hubig and Judd running into rear brake problems, posted the second fastest time on the stage behind early leaders Damso and Bonafide. Jean-Pierre Damso and Per Aris were also starting to speed up and took 19 seconds off Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, who ran for most of the stage with a flat left rear wheel. Hannes Krobler and Dave McGregor were quickly back into the groove. Well, almost, in the Nissan Sentra. Former rally and off-road champion Krobler and McGregor had opened up an early lead over Diffie Murray and Donny Duval in the Group N category, and were also leading Class N3. Murray and Duval in the Toyota Corolla were at the front of the Class N2 and going along steadily. The Cape Townians were being chased by Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the Team Total Toyota Conquest, also running in Class N2. Saunders is another young driver with a famous father, with Dad Eric, a Ford and Nissan factory driver in days gone by. Buttonholed at the end of Stage 3, the jovial Krobler was full of smiles.
It's totally different from the four-wheel drive and the rear-wheel drive Skylines that we've driven before, but it was nice. Me and Dave just decided to take it nice and casual and get our things together, getting used to each other, and but we went quite well.
South African champions Yanni Hubig and Douglas Judd were gradually coming to terms with the unfamiliar works VW Golf and grabbed their first stage win on Special Stage 4. They took 3 seconds off Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide, with the two crews starting to edge away from Piazzamusso and Hatton and Lawrence and Paisley. In Class A7, Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding were neck and neck with the Krobler-Burrows combination, with Fecken and Lukowitz going flat out to make up for time lost on the previous stage. Young Fecken, a Pretoria engineer, is another with a long rally pedigree, with father Harry and uncles Lambert and Ruloff top drivers in their time. Behind Fecken and Lukowitz, Krobler and McGregor were starting to go faster and faster in the Nissan Sentra. Krobler was finding his feet in his first taste of front-wheel drive rallying, and despite long layoffs for driver and co-driver, the Nissan pair was slowly but surely edging clear of the local crew, Diffie Murray and Donny Duval in the Goodwood electrical Toyota Corolla. While Murray and Duval were slipping behind the Nissan, they had a tight hold in Class N2. With the rally moving into the heart of the Boerland, a pattern was starting to emerge. Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide and the Castrol Toyota Conquest were holding on to a lead of around 15 seconds over Yanni Hubig and Douglas Judd, with the two crews sniping away at each other. Short special stages with good road conditions were also turning the event into a high-speed affair, and for the most part, all co-drivers could do was sit back and enjoy watching the scenery go past at a rapid rate of knots. On long straight sections, the Class A8 cars were hitting speeds of around 200 kilometers an hour, with 1 or 2 crews reporting some near misses with locals who strayed onto some of the sections of the route. Paolo Piazzamusso and Nick Hatton were going along nicely in third place in the Sassel Ford Escort, but Special Stage 5 turned into something of a disaster for Natal crew Tony Ball and Alec Harris in the Bulver Park Motors Golf. They lost around half a minute on the other Class A8 cars, dropped down the overall pecking order and faced a long grind to get back into the top 10. Glorious weather made for perfect rally conditions, but cars charging through the countryside at high speed were old hat for some local inhabitants. While crews like Ball and Harris were running into problems, others like Port Elizabeth traffic cop Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch in the VW Golf were going slowly but surely working their way up the leaderboard. Consistency has its rewards in rallying. Cape youngsters Richard Bem and Jonathan Bright in the Opel Corsa were having a good run and were looking for their second win of the season in this category. Richard Bem and Jonathan Bright were at the other end of the scale when compared with the likes of South African champions Jannie Hubig and Douglas Judd, who were still going through a familiarisation process in the VW Golf.
Yeah, you know, here and there it's going all right, but we're still battling to find our rhythm in the left-hand drive. It's, you know, positioning the car for the corners is the problem. I think so far we've managed to get 2 corners right, you know, that I thought, well, that was now fine, and the rest, you know, it's either too early or too late, you know, cutting the apex of getting into them. So maybe a few more stages we'll get it right.
The fight for Group N honours was loaded with interest, with Diffie Murray and Dani de Waal chasing after Hannes Krobler and Dave McGregor, who also ran into problems in Stage 5.
In Stage 5, ons het die eers het ons mense in die stage gekry, ek glo Hannes het 'n kar gekry in die stage, so maar ons het nou weer 12 teruggevat, so dit gaan die kompetisie is weer daar.
Special Stage 7 saw matters take a turn for the worse for Jannie Hubig and Douglas Judd. Battling with a rear brake problem, the VW factory crew dropped 10 seconds to Serge Damso and Vita Bonafide. Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the Team Total Toyota Conquest also had a disappointing stage. They dropped 24 seconds to Paolo Piazzamusso and Nick Haddon, but were in a solid 4th place. In Class A6, Hergen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dania Toyota Conquest had a tight grip on proceedings following the retirement of Team Total pair Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Oris, who went out with a mechanical problem in Special Stage 5. Young locals along the route were thoroughly enjoying the taste of national rallying, and local knowledge saw them take advantage of good spectator points. Stage 7 was a good one for Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows, and they took 15 seconds off Class A7 leaders Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding, with the 2 crews well ahead of the Coleman-Koch combination. Class N2 leaders Diffie Murray and Dani de Waal were still chasing after Hannes Krobler and Dave McGregor, but were in control of Class N2. With the sun starting to disappear behind the mountains and day 1 drawing to a close, the TAL crew, Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen in another Nissan Sentra, had moved into 3rd place in the Group N category and were second to Krobler and McGregor in Class N3. Special Stage 7 was the tightest of the day so far, with dust a perennial problem in rallying, also making life a little difficult for the crews. Team Total pair Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows had a good stage, with Krobler philosophical about what are occupational hazards for rally crews.
Yes, unfortunately there are a couple of drifts you have to go through and you come right down to 2nd gear stuff, and then obviously once you're through you can pick up again, but I think it's the same for everybody. Unless you make the dust caps at 3 or 4 minutes, it's going to be the same, so I think the times are pretty close.
Of the crews at the top of the leaderboard, the biggest losers in Stage 7 were Italians Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley.
Yeah, the stage is right next to a big canal, and like the first 3 cars went through, and then the dust just gets progressively worse the further you go back in the field. We couldn't see a thing, and you take a chance, you fall in the big dongas. So we lost a bit of time. They're also running hot, so we're now behind Paolo by 3 seconds, so we'll have to make time, not tonight in the tire stage, but tomorrow we'll definitely go for it again.
The final special stage of day 1 was a short and sharp spectator affair on the outskirts of Paarl. Serge Damso and Vita Bonafide went into the stage with a 23-second lead over Jannie Hubig and Douglas Judd, and picked up another 3 seconds on the VW crew. The stage was won by Paolo Piazzamusso and Nick Haddon in the Sassel Ford Escort, and they picked up another 9 seconds on Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley. The stage drew a huge crowd, which provided further evidence of the resurgence going on in South African rallying. Still out in front in Class A7 were Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding, wife of former Springbok navigator Steve Harding, who is now permanent clerk of the course for the Bankfin Touring Car Series. Hogan Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dania Toyota Conquest had a tight grip on Class A6 and were well in front of Dirk Badenhorst and Gerald Grace and Team Total pair Craig Trott and Brian Duncan. In a marvellous return to rallying for the pair, Hannes Krobler and Dave McGregor were leading the Group N category and on the fringes of a top 5 placing in the Nissan Sentra. A 26-second lead for Damso and Bonafide overnight, and Class A8 cars dominating the first 4 places. 3 Group N crews were in the top 10, with the Krobler-McGregor performance the outstanding feature of the day.
We've had a clean run, a steady pace, and it seems to be getting a bit hotter towards the end now. Everybody's starting to put pressure on, so we'll see tomorrow morning.
An early start to day 2 with the performance of Group N crews a major talking point on the Stannic Asset Finance Rally.
I must say the competition is very, very stern, very good in Group N. I think that's something for the future. If you take the money that we spend on the Group N cars and the amount of competitors that's beginning to go Group N.
The route for day 2 would again take crews into the Wellington, Wolseley, Tulbach and Gouda areas before returning to Paarl for the final special stage. No other event on this year's Stannic National Rally Championship calendar will compete with a Stannic Asset Finance Rally when it comes down to scenery, but for crews there was a job of work to be done. The 26-second lead Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide held overnight was to turn out to be critical, and there was an early indication of just how competitive the last day was going to be when the Castrol Toyota crew and the Hubig-Judd combination posted identical times on the first special stage of the day. In Class A7, only 2 seconds separated Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding and the team total pair of Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows. This was another battle going on to provide a huge interest, and Chart van der Walt and Harding scored an early blow in special stage 9 when they picked up 8 seconds to extend a tenuous 10-second lead. The battle for 3rd and 4th was also delicately poised. At the overnight halt, Paolo Piazzamusso and Nick Hatton were just 12 seconds clear of team total pair of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley. On stage 9, just 1 second separated the 2 crews, and there was only 2 seconds between the first 4 cars. It was going to be that kind of a day. In the Group N category, Hannes Krobler and Dave McGregor had just over a minute in hand over Diffie Murray and Donnie Duval at the overnight stop. All it takes for those sort of leads to disappear is a puncture or an off-road excursion, and team total crews Cliff Blackman and Johan Clausen and Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper were still in the picture. The fight in Group N was going to be interesting, but the first real drama of the day came when Hogan Fecken and Dave Lukowitz ran into problems on stage 9, and Dirk Badenhorst and Gerald Grace in the City Golf took over the lead in Class A6. The gap between Murray and Duval and Saunders and Hooper was narrowed in stage 9, and the potential for drama was increasing all the time, although it had not always been plain sailing for Saunders and Hooper.
It started off pretty well. The first stage we took 3 seconds off Diffie and we were tied for the lead. And then from the second stage we didn't have an intercom, so it was a bit hairy on this fast stuff, you know.
Magnificent mountains on the outskirts of series, and in special stage 12 a little hiccup for rally leaders Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide in a short and dusty stage. Fortunately no damage to the Castrol Toyota Conquest, and the former champions picked up another 4 seconds on the VW Golf factory crew of Jannie Hubig and Douglas Judd to now lead by 31 seconds overall. In the Class A7 battle, the gap between Chart van der Walt and the Krobler-Burrows team total golf had extended to over 20 seconds, but in stage 12 Krobler and Burrows managed to pull back 5 seconds, and this little confrontation was far from over. Onto special stage 14, and the Piazzamusso Haddon and Lawrence Paisley cameo was also far from over. Spectators at one of the vantage points were treated to a little bit of drama when Piazzamusso and Haddon got it all wrong. Sassel Ford Escort made violent contact with a gate post, and this little episode cost Piazzamusso and Haddon 11 seconds, with the gap between the pair and Lawrence Paisley now cut to less than 10 seconds. The scrap between Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding and Krobler and Burrows saw first one crew pick up a second or two, and then the other pair would immediately head back in the next stage. Just to alter the pattern, stage 14 saw two crews post identical times. A relaxed Hannes Krobler and Dave McGregor were still going like a train and inching further ahead of Diffie Murray and Donnie Duval at the top of the Group N leaderboard. Behind the Nissan Sentra, an Italian crew, Tony Ball and Alec Harris, were on the comeback trail. 13th overall at the overnight stop, Ball and Harris were gradually working their way back into the top 10.
What happened?
I just got it set up a bit wrong coming through a gate post and clipped the back of the car against the gate post.
You think you fix it all right?
Yeah, it's just cosmetical damage, you know. I got it just behind the wheel, so luckily no suspension damage.
A lone spectator perched on a rock was urging on Serge Damso and Vita Bonafide with the Castrol Toyota Conquest under a full head of steam. The Toyota pair now led Hubig and Judd by 28 seconds, but it was behind them that drama was about to unfold. Now only seconds behind Piazza Musso and Haddon, the team total pair of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were trying to exert maximum pressure on the Sassel Ford pair. Lawrence and Paisley had also built up a full head of steam when disaster struck with a huge accident, captured here by the race cam in the Toyota Conquest. Lawrence and Paisley were lucky to escape unhurt, with the car a complete wreck. That was the end of their rally, with the Italians now assuming a spectator role as Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows came barrelling along the road. Further back, there were new leaders in Class A6 and the team total pair of Craig Trott and Brian Duncan. And at a service area, Peter Burrows later caught up with Etienne Lawrence.
Etienne, a nasty moment there.
Yeah, we came over like a jump thing, and when we landed, the right rear control arm that holds the front one, that holds the wheel, broke, and the wheel turned sideways. That was after looking at the car, and then pushed us into a sideways drift for about 100 meters. I actually measured it off. It was 100 meters, like four wheels down the road, and then it veered off to the right, hit the bank, and then rolled off the road.
By special stage 17, the gap between Yanni Hubig and Douglas Judd and Damso and Bonafide was down to 25 seconds, and the VW factory pair pulled back another 2 seconds in this stage. The Class A7 fight was gradually swinging the way of the consistent and vastly underrated Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding, who, in a three-stage burst, took more than 20 seconds off Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows. At the front of the Group N field, Hannes Krobler and Dave McGregor were continuing to hold on to a lead of around a minute over Diffie Murray and Donnie Duval, with the Cape pair now running out of special stages in which to try and make up significant inroads into the deficit. Cape youngsters Richard Bem and Jonathan Bright in the Opel Corsa were having a good run, and they moved up to 13th overall and were second to Murray and Duval in the Class N2. It was a good day for them, but for early Class A6 leaders Jürgen Faken and Dave Lukowitz, now running at the back of the field, the news was not so good.
Since this morning, the first stage, we had that misfire we had yesterday, and we couldn't find the problem. After each stage, we replaced something else, new distributor, new fuel injectors, nothing worked. And every now and again, we've got that misfire again, so we're just trying to get to the end.
It was back to series for special stage 18, with the gap between Serge Damso and Vita Bonafide and Hubig and Judd still hovering around the mid-20-second bracket. An unusual race cam view of Yanni Hubig and Douglas Judd at work in the factory VW Golf, with the Sassel Ford pair of Paolo Piazzamosso and Nick Haddon now firmly in control of third place. Special stage 18 also drew a large crowd of locals, but with problems with timing clocks, the organisers had to later exclude the stage from the official scoring. Still trailing by more than 20 seconds, Hubig and Judd had still not thrown in the towel.
Keep on trying hard, but in case Serge makes a mistake or something goes wrong, so that we're near enough to do something.
And drama there was. Damso and Bonafide lost 20 seconds to Hubig and Judd in the special stage 20, and the gap between the Castrol Toyota Conquest and the VW Golf was now just 7 seconds, with Hubig and Judd hampered by a door that came a little unstuck in the special stage. With no pressure on them, Paolo Piazzamosso and Nick Haddon were cruising along in third place, with Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding now fourth and in control of Class A7. Hannes Krobler and Dave McGregor were also cruising towards the Group N win, with Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper third in Group N and up into the top 10. With the car refusing to start at the beginning of stage 20, Damso and Bonafide picked up a 20-second penalty.
We booked in late 2 minutes, so that cost us 20 seconds, so we gave away 20 seconds, so now it looks like it's only about 8 or 7 seconds difference.
The final special stage on the outskirts of Paarl in high drama, with Yanni Hubig and Douglas Judd having to make up 6 seconds on Serge Damso and Vita Bonafide. It was asking a bit much of the VW crew, and they managed only a 2-second gain in a tremendous finale. It was also the final throw of the dice for Barry Grobler and Mike Burrows and Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen in Group N, with both crews also losing out. Win number 2 this season for Damso and Bonafide, but it couldn't have been closer. Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding took Class A7, and Craig Trott and Brian Duncan Class A6. A great effort from Grobler and McGregor to finish 6th overall, taking Group N and Class N3 honours. Class N2 went to Murray and Duval, and N3 to the young Alan Worms and Ashley Ferricker.
Yanni Abu gave us a hard time, and if you look at through the 2 days, 26 seconds, both, you know, it was a tight, and finishing 4 seconds last stage, it's something. Anyway, I'm glad it finished.